Hello, everybody. Welcome to our final point of view uh, episode of the year here. This is the brainchild of Mr. Lloyd Cornelius with help from Matt Merrill. And we are very pleased to be uh, hosted by Nikki Bullock and her father, Joe. They are well-established, well-known throws people, and also Joe is known for his expertise in implement inspection. And we're looking very much forward to what they have to give to us tonight. Nikki and Joe, it's all yours.
Oh, sorry. I'll start because I unmuted
Uh,
myself there.
All right.
All right. So good evening, everybody. As usual, I will be running the video from here. Usually we're about an hour. We might be a little bit over because the content is just under 40 minutes. And there are two places I have to stop for Nicole and Joe to narrate. So please, put your questions and comments in the chat. Scott will do his best to hold those till the end, unless something's on fire, which I doubt. But let me get the video up right now. That's not it. Can you see a black screen, folks?
Can, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna start playing now.
Here is a layout of the equipment you would need to do any throw. There may be other things, but this is the basic things that you will need. A marker, a weather rider, or you may use a plastic bag to protect your feet in the rain. Pencil, pen, markers, you need clipboard, a stopwatch, carpenter's tape. If you need to find the middle of the circle, that's the best implement to use. There are electric ties here, and you have a hole in the net. Gloves to help clean off when you're handling implement. There is a 100 meter tape, 100-foot tape, and it's steel tape for records. We also need athletic tape and different color tape to tape hammers, the chain on the hammer. Safety pin in case the athlete forgets the pins to take their numbers on. A rag to wipe off the implement. Your flag, red, yellow, and white. Sunscreen, protect yourself. A couple of tools, an adjustable wrench, a hammer. I carry a multi-tool on my belt and use it quite often. A towel to put at the entrance of the circle so the athletes can wipe their feet. Conversion shots, and they can be found in the goal book. Need a comb to indicate when your circle is open or closed, a broom to clean the circle. And here I have cards that you may use with the circle to indicate a fair or foul throw. We have moved away from red and green because some people are colorblind and cannot see. Black and white is preferable now because everybody's in black and white.
When arriving at a venue, make sure you carefully examine the netting for any gaps, holes, or anything that could pose as a problem. As you saw earlier in the video, you should have zip ties available. They can be purchased at any hardware store, Walmart, and Amazon. As you can see, we had to add zip ties to this area in the netting. And I put one earlier. And just make a round trip around the circle just to make sure, carefully examining all of the areas in the netting. And as you can see, there's a hole right there, and I will put a zip tie in that to repair it so that it is safe and secure before the throwing event. And just like I said before, just go around the circle and carefully examine it.
Whenever you're working the hammer or the disc. To keep yourself safe. This is not a safe place. This absorbs the energy of the implement. When the implement hits, this thing could go back 6 to 8 feet. So you should place yourself 6 to 8 feet behind the net so that if the implement hits the net, it will not end up hitting you. This net is not adequate for a hammer.
Because
It's not high enough. There are no gates to close.
the bottom?
And well, it's wide open now. It isn't even closed up. But the bottom isn't secure. A low thrown hammer, there's holes in this net that are easily big enough for a implement to go through.
Could you do a discus here with a little bit of repair?
Probably, but you'd have to be very careful.
Yeah, fix these holes.
That's
For
the
sure.
hammer.
No, these holes.
Oh, yeah, you'd have to fix the holes in the net. The net would have to be secure at the bottom and secure against the front poles. It's not secure against the front poles right now. And in terms of safety, you could let nobody out in the landing area at all. Nobody out in the second area at all. No spectators or anybody. Because this is not, if somebody hooks one, it's gonna go a long way that way or a long way that way. And there's no safe area in front of this circle and net.
Just before we move on, I've already reminded our presenters and anyone making comments, please let's leave facility names out of the conversation because we don't want to anger our facilities. We could just say a facility, this was an issue, a facility that, let's not be specific as to where they are located or school or affiliation.
Yeah, that's a good call. Please be discreet about that.
Nicole?
So this was a facility that I just happened to be at. What are some types of things that people see wrong with this facility just off the bat?
Height,
This is when you can unmute yourself and speak up.
I'll go to the next one.
Can we see more of the cage, please?
that was like a hole.
There's no netting on the gates. There's one thing.
The net also looks too low.
A lot of repair to be done.
That's right.
So this is another example of a facility I've had the privilege of working at. What are people's thoughts on it?
What about the height of the netting?
We did have a wait go over into the stands during competition, so definitely the fence, the netting.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you probably can't see it on the left-hand side between the barriers. This is probably a better view. The barriers and the black fence, they had spectators walking back and forth
Oh, wow.
with marshals' assistance as well.
Oh, wow.
Still.
It was, yes. So that's another view of it.
So the Nicole, the benches were unoccupied at the time of the hammer slamming into them.
The weight, no, actually they were occupied. It was the weight, I think 3 years ago, it ended up going into the stands. It was a gap between people where they were seated, but it did end up going into the stands. There were people there.
Wow.
Hey, I have a question. So for indoors, and as you just stated, there was an implement that went over in the stands. So is there like a minimum height that the net should be? Over?
It depends upon the facility. I mean, that was, I'm going to say a national meet. It should have been a lot higher than it was. Either that or they shouldn't have had the seating there, the benches there. because that is definitely a danger not only to the spectators, but also, you know, the athletes as well, and the officials.
So the different rule books prescribe different things. High school, of course, is going to be the least demanding about them. For a hammer facility, the moving panels in the front should be 10 meters. And so we're talking about 33 feet. That's if they are done to standard. And the netting that is not movable that surrounds the cage should go up to about 22 feet. And so we're talking about, you know, like 7 meters at that point. Um,
So Nicole, in this picture, I guess your sectors are pretty close to the wall. You
Uh,
can't have
so yes, this was actually at a national championship. They threw the weight here only. They did threw the shot in the infield, and that didn't have any protection, but there were no other events going on. They threw the weight. The netting was maybe half a foot from the wall. We did have a few weights hit the wall, and we were cautious because there were obviously windows there. Also with this netting and this setup, the athletes had to walk around to the front of the circle because the entrance was not conducive, typically like it is for the athletes to walk into to get into the circle. They actually had to walk around to the front where the gates are and then walk into the circle.
Okay. So there's just no, I just took some pictures of the around this cage, and then Joe will take in the video.
Oh, right
No,
now,
yeah, Joe. Yeah, no, Joe, you don't have to talk now. I'm saying
okay.
yeah. You're gonna take over. I just took pictures of the around the circle, the cage. Now you'll go right through.
Thing you check as a hammer official is the gate first in the circle and then move on to the sector. So we've arrived here and the gates are closed, so we're going to open the gate first.
that was hard to hear. Could that question be repeated or could that statement be repeated?
Sure, it was when we arrived at this facility, the gates were closed. So the first thing we would check is the gates and then the netting, and then we would examine these sectors.
Yeah. The beginning is a little muffled, but it gets better. You know, you can take away my Emmy status for film editing.
Make sure they're secure in their holes or anything. So the next thing we're going to check is the netting, and it just so happens that this netting is down, so we want to rise the netting up so that it is, we can determine if it's a legal net or not, or legal facility.
Which one do you want to put? It is on. this is. What? It's on the bolt, right?
We're not gonna raise all of them, we're just gonna show an example of how this facility, how to.
What you couldn't hear is that we're only gonna just raise the one gate to show you how to raise the net on one gate. It would have taken too long to do the entire circle, cage.
Raise the net, not to do the entire setup. Right here.
It's this one, the rest of this one.
This one?
No, right here, the rope is here, Nicole. Thanks. That rope. Now we gotta find the tie off. Tie off is here.
We're not gonna do the entire thing, but we're just gonna show it. Sure, you explain it to me.
So you would obviously work your way around to make sure that all the netting is up and correctly up around the rings.
All right, so Nicole, you just explain here what's wrong with these pictures as they go through.
So that circle is it might look a lot bigger than it really is. There's no cage whatsoever around it. There's no facility, there's no sectors to it.
There's more coming. This one?
So that is the discus, obviously, and hammer cage. There's a lot of concrete that is broken up. The obviously the drains need to be cleaned out. There's a lot of debris in them.
Same thing, right?
That one, yes. And you can see it's barely marked off where the athletes are supposed to step outside the circle. Obviously, there's a lot of cracks in this one, and there's a line across the front, which isn't typical.
I guess I have a question going back to, even though I've been doing throws for a long time, I'm pretty reluctant to put the net up because, you know, I don't own the net and I don't work for that facility. And so the people who run that facility, that particular cage, they ought to be in charge of that to put it up correctly. And because if somehow we as officials mess it up and alter it, that's our responsibility. And I don't want to pay for that.
Oh, you're correct. You're correct. I think, yeah, we were just illustrating that it has to go up and that it does go up. I think that's what we're illustrating. But Robert,
Yeah,
you're
but
correct.
our responsibility really is inspecting it to make sure once it's up that it's safe and in place and will protect spectators as well as athletes and officials. That's
you're
really our responsibility.
absolutely correct. We just didn't have any facilities, people to do it that day. So
Okay, all right.
yeah, we were just showing to put up. That's all.
The other thing too is that usually, and that's why I tend to recommend that people arrive in enough amount of time, ample amount of time, if not more, because even if the netting is up, you need to put a few zip ties into the netting just to repair it. If not, then you need more time to determine whether or not the netting is safe, the facility is safe to have an event.
Okay.
Correct.
After ensuring that the netting is legal and safe is to inspect the circle, the throwing circle. You would first check to see if the metal rim is intact and it is as tight as it can be to the circle. You also would need to clean out drains if there are any drains. That's fine.
Is that a drain cleaning implement or is that just?
No, it's just a marker. It's just a marker, just
Okay.
to show.
It's a metal Drano.
It can be used for multi-purposes besides
Okay.
marking.
You would actually, inspect the circle to see if it's the correct diameter, including finding the true center.
So it's again, this one's just a little muffled. That's my fault. But he's just explaining the measurement itself, and you will see them how they would measure the center of the circle.
40.
This is a hammer circle. It's 7 feet,
Yes. That-
two
that's-
point
that's
one
what he
three
said.
five meters.
Correct.
This tape. Go from one edge, make sure the tape. Make sure the tape is at 7 feet and then mark 42 inches.
When doing this, for the shot put and hammer circle, I use feet and inches. It's 72 feet, 7 feet, 42 inches to the middle. You got a 1.35 meters and 1.067 meters. So to me, it's easy to use 7 feet and 42 inches.
Thank you, Joe.
Sorry, okay. I need to take a couple of these marks to make sure that they intersect and I get the center of the circle.
He just said that he's gonna take at different angles and he's gonna to make sure we got the same center.
With a discus circle, note it's 2.5 meters. So I use 1.25 meters to find the center of a discus circle as opposed to 4.121 inches or 4 feet, 121 inches. So discus, I use the meters, 1.25. Hammer and shot, I'm using 42 inches to find the center.
The circle is slightly under 7 feet. Let's do one more. I'm gonna do one more just to make sure. Let's go this. Oh, there we go. These lines intersect the center of the circle. Now, I want to establish the back half with tape so that athletes know where they have to exit. That tape has to be towards the front of the circle so they have the complete back of the circle to exit. So the back edge of the tape is to the back of the circle. The front edge is actually towards the front of the circle. This tape through the middle of the circle. I put the tape to indicate the back of the circle at the front of this ruler on both sides. This gives the athlete the entire back half of the circle to make their exit. Okay. All you need.
The front of the circle here is to the right.
Examining the circle, make sure that it is clean before the event. That includes all tiny objects, any dust, any dirt that could impact the throw. And an athlete could slip on potentially. If it is raining out, you need to make sure that the drains are cleared. So you would stick something sharp down there and clear it to the bottom. Usually the drains are on either side of the circle. Sometimes some circles have front and back drains as well. just to make sure that the water can be filtered out.
What if there is no drains?
So if there are no drains, you typically leave it wet unless it is torrential and it is becomes a safety hazard. If you have athletes slipping in the circle, falling in the circle, then you would try to minimize the amount of water or fluid that is in the circle.
Is there a finite?
Flooded, you leave it
Hold on.
flooded.
Is it a finite amount of water? Did you say half an inch, or is it just your judgment?
Just, it would be the judgment, depending upon how much water or fluid is in the circle. If it becomes safety, then you might want to get some of the water out if they're slipping. If it's,
How would you get
so
the water out?
so typically they would have squeegees or brooms to release the water. If there is a, air blower, air dryer, you typically want to caution and not use that because then the oil from the air blower can typically release oils into the ground and into the circle where it would be a lot more, it would be slippery, and it would actually cause more of a hazard and more of a safety concern.
Yeah, you only
This
want
towel here.
So
Lloyd,
that
So-
towel,
Lloyd,
So are
Yeah.
you saying, for an example, I have a blower that's battery operated?
Okay,
You're
that's
good.
that's different.
That's
That's
different.
different.
that's
That's
good.
Okay, then, and I'm also asking the question, if you go to a sector and so forth in the ring, and it's not safe. However, we've looked at several things already that wasn't safe. However, the event went on. So where does your liability come in as a lead official that you know it's not safe? You did all your measurements. You said the net wasn't high enough, and this wasn't this way, and this wasn't that way, and you continue to let the event go on. Where does your liability come in as a lead official?
Okay, so later on in this video, we do address a difference of opinion in terms of, and it was actually staged on purpose, a difference of opinion about water in the circle. So we could address that one later. Scott, did you have something?
I did. I always carry a screwdriver with me, about a foot-long screwdriver. So that's really good for cleaning out drain holes. And you can also use it to scrape along the inside edge of the ring in an area where there's a lot of moisture and such. One of the things you get is moss, and moss is very slick. So you want to make sure that you have rid the ring of any moss. And we're talking about water falling into a ring. So water in contact with moss will automatically make things a lot slicker. So you see the broom that Joe was wielding. Another good thing to have is a push broom, because what you want to do is abrade as much as you can any of the surface debris that can be in the ring, so that when it is later wet from rain, you lessen the chance that there's going to be slippage.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. We're gonna deal with water a little later. I'm just gonna continue going.
because some athletes, even though you've cleaned out the circle, don't want to bring any debris or anything into the circle, so they would wipe their shoes on that, whether the weather is wet, dry or wet. You typically would want to dry their feet so that they would have a safe surface.
And I'd recommend as an official, you bring towels if you're involved in the throws.
So you would do the same thing with the discus circle, except the discus circle has a diameter of 4 feet 1 inch or 1.25 meters to the middle of the circle from the outer edge.
Hey, Joe,
Yes.
real quick question. Because not all circles are round, throwing circles, I measure sector line left, sector line right. I take 2 rulers or 2 tapes to find the center of the circle. And depending if it's going to be a laser or tape, if it's laser, I put the dot. If it's tape, I put a mark 1 inch left and right of the center mark, about 2 inches long. So when I pull tape, I tell the kids or whoever's pulling tape to pull between the two lines to save the integrity of the center circle in case in the future they're going to be using laser. Because I've gone in there and seen circles the size of a quarter colored as a center mark. So if you go in there with a laser later on, there's no good way of finding the center then.
That's interesting.
Sounds good.
So if
All right, so what we're gonna show here is two separate ways of creating the sector. The first one is with 3 separate tapes. The second one is with 1 tape. Same measurements. So you'll just see them do this here.
these sectors are not down or laid out when you arrive to the facility, show you a quick version of how to make the sectors, create the sectors. So we have the marking stick in the middle where the true center is. We have 1 tape going out 20 meters. We have the other tape going out 20 meters as well. And for every 5 meters, you're going to go 4 meters across, 3 across. And so it would be 20 feet, 20 meters down the sector lines, and then 12 meters across.
Which, yes, 20, 12, and 20. It's a little garbled, but it's 20, 12, and 20.
And as you notice, the sector lines are not correct. But the sector line would have to be moved into the 12 meters to make it correct. And the other, make sure when you are creating the sectors that the tapes are straight and tight.
And this circle,
This
this
sector's off center.
this sector is a little off center. We need to move this, both tapes to the right. We need to move both tapes to the right. So probably one person can hold on to the tape, the 0 point of the tape, move it a little bit. And if you have a second person, they can hold the 12 meters and move that tape a little bit.
Oh, step out of the way?
Yeah.
Hey, put it down, it's fine.
You can see it's not on center.
Not but noticeably tilted to the left of the video. Joe, this is your part to narrate.
The,
Option
Uh,
to lay
um,
down
yeah.
your sectors with 1 tape. This becomes
All right.
easy to adjust the sector if it's a little bit off.
using 1 tape, I would go out to 20 meters. Then I need 12 meters. So the next mark would be across the sector at 32 meters. When she gets ready to bring it back in, I got 20 plus 12 is 32, plus 20 would be 52 meters when I'm back at the circle, to the center spot of the circle. So it's 20, 32, 52.
Bring the tape back in.
Same way as you did just now, but just with one tape.
1 tape. Yep.
Back to the circle.
If you did 10 meters, it would be 10, 16, 26.
And we can see we are over 52 meters. We're almost 53 meters. But we would need first to pull the tape straight. We would now need to move in the second marker to get to 52 meters.
You can see it 52.75. 52.75, so we'd have to move the stake that's to the left of the circle in 75 centimeters, 0.75 meters to get it to 52.
But now, you said if you wanted to change if you need to, if it was off-centered, this way it's easy to do?
Yeah, well, we got to get it.
No, I said, let's assume we did
You
get it
assume
right.
it's right?
Yes,
All right. Now you can hold this, Nicole.
I'll hold it. Okay.
Well, this is the way you can do it with fewer people.
It's
Absolutely.
it's almost perfect. It might be slightly off. If it were off, you can go out and move the two stakes until you get the triangle exactly where it should be in relation to the middle of the circle. You want me to go out and move them?
Would you ever have to use a steel tape instead of a cloth tape?
You
I
can't
would not
do that with
attempt
steel
to do the sector because you'd end up bending the tape unless you had three tapes and you're going out straight and didn't bend it. But with one
mean,
tape,
yeah.
I would use a cloth tape.
I'm talking about the two tape method where you would not bend the tape, but would you have to ever use a steel tape?
I never have.
Okay, that's fine.
But if you're doing college or high school, if there's nothing there, this will get you what you need.
Mhm.
The championship meet, we would hope that the meet management has already got our sectors there
You would hope.
with a technical, person there.
All right.
So after you've set up the sector, you need, the next thing is to have a barrier or safety for both the athletes and the spectators. Typically at this facility where the cones are, the orange cones are where they have the spectators, but mostly the athletes. Going back to the woods, they have the athletes on this side, and they would have the EDM, EDR on the opposite side, or tape pullers. In this case, because you do not want to trip up the athletes, you want the athletes to have a free range of where they can move around. On this side, opposite side, you would have barriers right near the going parallel to the cage out to the fence, and then as close to the fence as possible, because a lot of the spectators and athletes are, I don't want to say ignorant, but ignorant to the throwing facility. So they have their back turns towards the circle. So you want it to as close to the fence as possible. So if there is an air throw, then you would want them out of harm's way, more so than if you had the sector running parallel to the sector that you put out there. So this is an illustration of where the sector tape should be in terms of creating a sector. It's on the inner of the tape. So in no way is the width of the sector tape right now the legal width of the hammer sector. But that's just an illustration to show you where the tape would go if you had to create a sector.
I'll just make a quick note, and Scott would say so also. There will be a separate video of flats for javelin. We just touch on it very quickly here. So any questions for flats, you could probably just hold that because we're just going to do that another time. But this is just a simple marking of a very basic illustration of how to mark throws.
The demonstration on what is a fair or foul throw in the landing area. Mind you that the sector is completely inside the sector line. So any contact with the sector would be a foul. A good throw. That is a good throw. Oh, that has touched the sector line, so that would be a foul throw.
That is definitely a foul throw. It is on the sector line. Foul, outside the sector line. And to indicate, you want me to indicate that foul, the person in the field stands with their arm at 90 degrees and points. And stays there until he is assured that somebody in the circle has seen it and a red flag appears. Fair throw. That is also a fair throw. That is a fair throw. The ball is completely inside the sector line. It is a fair throw. That rolled into the sector line, so that would be a fair throw. The initial contact was off the sector line.
Handle first.
Foul throw.
Show the handle out, but the ball in. Handle first. Handle hits first, and then the ball hits inside.
Right. The handle heading outside the sector line is immaterial. It's where the head of the hammer lands, where the ball lands. This is a legal throw.
Discus.
Legal throw. First contact is inside the line. That is a legal throw. Foul throw. It has touched the line. Foul throw. That is a fair throw. The initial contact was inside the line, inside the sector line. Fair throw. That is also a fair throw because the initial contact was inside the sector line. That is a foul throw. It's on the sector line.
Get out, really. I'm not saying I'm not gonna like.
Foul throw. Be outside the sector.
What was I gonna say to you? He bit my hand today.
Marking the implements. You always want to determine where the closest mark, the closest landing mark to the front edge of the circle, to the arc of the circle. He was marked right at the front edge of the impact that the shot put made.
Congrats.
Your money's over there for the co-counsel. Now, when you going out to dance?
There probably indicated where the grass was depressed, and that would be the front end of the landing point closest to the circle. The arc of the circle. The hammer would obviously be marked the same way, going to the front edge of the impact. The hole that's left, the slight hole left by that. The discus is a little bit different. It can land and leave a mark, or it could land flat and you have no mark. You just have to go to the best possible indication of where it landed. Like that did hit on the edge, so you will have a mark. And if there is a smile, a semicircle mark, you go to the closest part of the mark to the front arc of the circle.
Let me do that one again. Ready?
That landed flat, so she went where she felt that the discus landed where it touched first. If it lands flat, it probably is towards the center of the disc. Right? That one hit on edge, so she went to where the edge hit.
You don't want the same thing here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
And the javelin does not have to necessarily, it has to hit point first. It does not necessarily have to stick in. It just needs to hit point first. Right, that would be an easy one. You go to where the javelin entered the ground. Right, she has a point there. She went to the spot where the point of the javelin hit. Didn't necessarily stick, but it did hit point first.
Move back one.
Right.
Oh, wait, let me do that again. Let me do that one again. That wasn't a good one. Oh. Ready?
Even though the javelin turned over, it did hit point first, and where that point hit the ground is where she's going to make the mark. Where it
Shouldn't that be the metal cone? If I
You'll have a
roll
point
it,
first in that situation, the point they hit first. If the javelin,
I see you, Steve. We'll get you in 1 second. I just want to make
Okay.
one comment. Some of these things seems very elementary for some of us, but for people like me who don't go play in the grass and the dirt, it's very helpful about learning how to mark something. I'll come. I saw your hand up there, Steve. I'll be there in a minute.
not hit point first. If the tail hits first, that is considered a flat. We do not mark those throws. Those are foul throws.
And like I said, there's a longer conversation about flats another time. Okay, here we go. Hold on, hold on.
That hit tail first, that is not a legal throw. You would not mark that. Other than that, well, you would go to the mark in case there's a protest, and we would not announce that a mark. We would just record it on the back of the sheet. Surfaces, the shot will have a splash. It'll create an impact crater. You have to be careful to go. No, that's right. What she has marked, she has not marked the splash. She has marked where the ball hit. There is a circle where it has contained some material. That is where you mark if you have a surface that creates a splash. We do not mark the outside of the splash. And if you are marking in these circumstances, you'd be very consistent where you're placing the marker. Okay.
One more time. Let me do it.
Okay. You had a forward splash there. It didn't splash backwards, but the marker went right to the front of where the shot put hit. That's a different splash. In high school, for high school athletes, no matter how the javelin lands, it can be measured. If it hits point first, you obviously go to the point where the point hit first. If it hits tail first, you go to where the tail hit. If you judge that it is flat, use your best judgment and hustle to the point where you felt the grip hit the ground. That would be the closest mark to the circle. To the runway, I'm sorry, there's no circle in Jack, it's a runway.
So typically the
So this is, remember, they're a father and daughter, so they're allowed to argue. But this was specifically staged to have a difference of opinion.
first and foremost is you leave the circle to the athlete.
If it's wet.
If it's wet, if it's dry, I usually preference that the athlete will ask me to either sweep out the circle or if it's wet or dry. I leave that up to them, and this is their throwing conditions that they have to throw in.
What if the circle is completely flooded, like overflowing the top?
So I would still wait for an athlete to tell me if they wanted the circle swept or to try to remedy the water. However, if it becomes a safety issue, you at this point would bring a referee in to determine the conditions. If the referee determines that the event should still go on, you again leave it up to the athletes in terms of getting the water out of the circle at their preference.
If I'm at a circle and the circle is flooded, the drains are not working. The circle is flooded and it remains to be raining, I would not try to deal with the circle. I would let the athletes throw with a circle full of water. In my opinion, it is safer than trying to dry that circle and get yourself in a condition where it's semi-dry, semi-wet, and it's more likely to create an injury than if the circle is completely flooded or completely dry.
So these are two different points of view, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Now, you had an instance?
I was at a meet and we had three flights of athletes in the shot put. It was raining, the circle was flooded. We continued with the flight and can finish the flight with a flooded circle. They decided, lightning came, they decided to cancel the event till the next day.
Did they cancel because of the lightning or because of the water?
Lightning.
Okay.
Because of the flood in the circle.
Okay.
Lightning appeared, we're out of here, we're done.
Okay.
The next morning we came back, we were able to get the circle dry. The next two flights competed with a dry circle.
And the coaches were up in arms because their kids threw under different conditions and unfavorable conditions compared to the second and third flight. The ruling by the referee was, that's it. They're gonna go with what we had. We're not flooding the circle for the second and third flight.
So this is a situation you can't win, you'd say?
No, you can't win. If it's raining, it's, in my opinion, it's better to keep it flooded than to try to dry it and get it to a point where it's safe. Because there's a fine line where that circle has just enough water on it that it's very dangerous.
And your opinion is the same or different?
Tend to disagree. I leave the circle up to the athletes. So if they want it cleared out when they're throwing, then I will oblige by their request to have it cleared out.
Okay.
Most of the time, though, the athletes will prefer to, throw with the flooded circle and that.
Correct.
Now at the shot put circle, the preparation for the shot put circle would be exactly the same as it was
Joe,
for a hammer circle.
Joe, just a minute
Yes.
here. We had a question about a ring that was not level, where half of it was wet and the other half was dry. What's your recommendation in this case?
You'd have to dry it out. You can't have half dry, half wet. You can't go from wet into dry or dry into wet. I'm assuming that the rain isn't still coming down and you're able to dry it between throws or between athletes. If it's half wet, that means it's probably not going to flood. But in those conditions, I would do the best I could to get it dry. Completely dry.
Thank you.
There doesn't appear to be any drains in this circle. We would find the center of the circle. The same procedure, same measurements. We would put our tape down for the back half of the circle for the exit of the athletes. As I'm looking at the surface of this circle, I would be very hesitant to conduct a shot put in this circle because I think the athlete's feet could very easily be caught in these holes and end up being injured and twisting an ankle.
So let's assume this circle is good.
If the circle is good and it's smooth, I will check the toe board to make sure the toe board is secure, and this one is very secure, but it doesn't fit exactly right. It doesn't come right to the ridge here, and on the corners it overhangs. But that would not prevent me from conducting the shot put because the athletes are going to be hitting in the center of the board as opposed to the corners.
Is there a way of securing the board if it's not?
If it's not secure, you have to secure it. You have to, I have tools, equipment bag, I have nuts and bolts and things, tools and things to see if it washers, to see if I can tighten the bolts if it is not secure, but it has to be secure.
We're bringing it home, folks. This is a short section here.
The javelin, if you're going to lay down the sectors in the javelin, if you lay your toe board down or whatever you have, you got to go 8 meters from the middle of it. And at the 8 meter mark, that's where you would begin to do the sector. Right where that nail is 8 meters. Whatever you go out, if you go out 40 meters, it's 20 across. 50 meters, 25 across. 30 meters, 15 across. It's half. Half across what you go out, and then you will get the proper sector.
And you'll have, but you need 8 meters from.
You got to be 8. You got to start the development of your sector line from here. If you look at this javelin area, you can see the sector line goes right up the runway. It intersects the sector line right where you would have laid your tool board down or your foul board. There is the intersection of the sector line and the foul rim, or whatever I don't know what they call it, but the board. That where the foul line is also 4 meters. You've come up 8, halfway across is 4. You go straight back from that and you get your 4 meter runway.
Got it. What's the purpose of this line here for?
This line here is their exit mark. Like, not the back half of the circle, but it serves the same thing. They have to exit, first contact behind that line as they're exiting the runway.
And do they have to wait till the implement lands to?
Every implement has to land before the athlete can exit. First contact, whether they're under control or not. First contact in the back part of the circle, they have made an exit.
So here I am. Is this a foul?
No,
Is this a foul?
no, that is definitely a foul.
What if my hands are?
If your feet are behind it and your hands go over, that is a foul, just like any other throwing circle.
What if my hair brushes over this line?
Does it touch the ground?
Yes.
Touches the line?
No, touches over the ground. Does my hair goes over there?
Your hair?
Yeah, hair. Yes, long hair, and it touches the ground over there.
That's a foul.
Okay.
You're saying yes?
Yeah, it's a foul.
Okay.
All right. So just to wrap this up, Nicole, I don't know if you could see my mouse. I just took this picture here. If you could just very quickly describe what these folks are doing in this circle. I'll start here. The guy with the clipboard.
That is the what we call the flight coordinator or athlete control official.
This
That would be a circle judge, number
there's
one.
there's probably one on this side too.
So there's another circle judge on that side. There's also a timer recorder on that side as well.
Person.
That is somebody bringing in the implement retriever.
This person is.
That would be somebody out there marking, an official out there marking.
And the one in the far right is just a retriever too, right?
Retriever, correct.
Okay, next picture is, let's see. The same, oh, this has a cage. So
that would be the
this
way.
person here?
So that would be circle judge. On the opposite side would be the circle judge as well. That would be the athlete control individual calling up the names. They had two people marking at that event.
one
And
here.
then there were two people out there retrieving implements.
Okay. So that is it. Now we can open up. We got a lot in the chat. Scott, go ahead.
All right, everybody. This is an opportunity for you to unmute and to ask questions. We'll try to catch up with the chat while we have some oral questions here. So go ahead.
Okay, I guess we've answered them all.
It's good for people to look through the chat. There's a comment from Paul and Suzanne Kine about if you leave the athletes up to make a decision, maybe one will decide one way and the person right after disagrees with that. So it sounds as though they're coming down on the side of Joe regarding the condition of the ring being wet or dry.
Mr. Marshall, I believe, asked a question about if you've deemed the facility as unsafe, where's the liability? If you walk into a facility and you feel it's unsafe and you cannot conduct the event safely, then you shouldn't conduct it until whatever conditions you identify are corrected. If they have somebody else, they change you somewhere else and move somebody else in to do the event, I would suggest that you leave. Because you identified stuff, you said it should be corrected. It wasn't corrected, the event went on. You're liable because it's still your liability. It's a question of your liability in that case too. But if it's not safe, don't let it go.
And please, everybody, consult the best practices library under throws, because that is an area in particular, of course, that talks about what Joe and Nicole have just covered. But in it is a treatise by Shelby Sharp, a lawyer who has very easily, that is very clearly and thoroughly laid out safety considerations and asking questions of the official. What have you done to, once you have determined that something is unsafe? Did you attempt to make any corrections, or did you inform management that the facility is unsafe and you're not going to work there? You must put yourself in the situation of somebody taking a stand in a court of law, answering questions after somebody has been injured or killed.
There's a comment here. Are tent stakes good enough to secure a loose net at the bottom of a cage? A throws person, please answer that.
That presupposes that you're going to be
I
putting,
would think they are, but they couldn't be too spread out. They'd have to be pretty close together. So that
You'd
the
also
I would
implement
say
have
they
would go
would
under
have
it.
to be low on the ground too as well, because if an implement hits the netting, how easy is it for the netting to come up? So it has to be in a, dugout area, like dirt. I wouldn't say rocks or anything. I would say definitely something that's secure.
Okay,
Most of
that
your nets
question
don't
for
go
me.
past the concrete.
Okay, that question came from me. This is Omar De La Rosa. The very first ring that you showed seemed very unsafe. It did have the ring in concrete, but even where the nets were, it was all grass. And it looked like the net was very loose. So I was just concerned somebody really messes up and throws it, you know, I'd hate for a discus to hit right at the bottom of that net and slip underneath and possibly go into the crowd or something.
No, yeah, exactly.
I've seen that happen.
There's another question that says, so if you're the lead official for a throws and you're traveling out of state for a meet, do you need to travel with your own tools just in case?
I would err on the side of yes, because you don't know what a facility is going to have, not have. So if you can anticipate zip ties, you can anticipate stakes, anything like that. I mean, you might want to ask somebody ahead of time if they are closest to the facility. Ask them typically what they carry. If not, then again, you'd bring everything. I hate to say the kitchen sink as well, but just to be safe.
I have I have a dual cab Toyota Tacoma. The back of it is full of four boxes with anything you can think of, flags, tape, all sorts of tools, and the back of the truck is full too.
I could vouch
So
for
I
that.
bring
I saw
everything
it.
I think I could possibly need to conduct an event.
Gotta appreciate that too. I've seen the back of his car.
yeah.
I was
Sandra,
thinking more about TSA if you're flying to a meet.
Oh, well, that's something different. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Would
think
hope
that would
the
take some
host
coordination.
facility would have enough of that, or somebody, a local official might have that, those types of tools or ingredients, as you say, would have.
Okay.
a great question, Sandra.
Thank
New
you.
official on the Oregon Association. I very much recommend that you travel with a couple folding cones, and you can fashion some PVC pipe, and I'll show you that when I do the jab flats that can break down and fit easily into your luggage. And I also recommend that you carry a long tape, 100 meters, and a 50-meter tape, and also a 30-meter tape. Go ahead and just, it's not going to be that much more weight, but it's very frustrating to get somewhere to find out that there's inadequate equipment.
I've got a question on sector lines. This is much more not a safety issue, but I showed up at a meet, high school meet, and they were actually using 3-inch by 6-foot long planks to lay out their sector lines. And, the first thing I said, we know we're not going to set any records today because I'm not going to be the one determining if that's a foul or not, if the boards are bouncing all over the place. But also you go to meets and you see a 5-inch tape, a 3-inch tape, tapes that aren't properly stapled. Do you have some standard you always expect when you show up for even a high school meet?
It could be different. I've
5
had
centimeters.
Yeah.
I think 5 centimeters.
Yeah,
You
our
have to
video
kind
just
of
shows
work-
how to lay it down. Go ahead, Nicole. I'm sorry.
So you kind of have to work with what you've got. I've been to meets where they've had the tape, they've had the fertilizer sectors. I've also been to facilities where they have the rope, which is not really great. But I mean, in that case, you typically give the athletes, you know, if it hits the ground and then, you know, bounces, hits the sector, you would give it to the athlete because that's not a stable sector for them to be using, period. So, and it's not with within the thickness of what is legal.
Well, yeah, the only important part of the tape, no matter how wide it is that inner thin line, whatever is the demarcation point between the sector and the area outside of the sector. The purpose of the tape is to give people a good visual. So if you can maintain a good visual when there's a rope that's used in the sector, then everything's good. The important thing is how straight is that sector line, because you'll see some that looks as though they've been laid down by a drunken sailor. And as much as you can, attempt to straighten it before and between throws. I do that all the time. Police the sector line.
I go to a track where the discus cage is angled in a way that a big throw or foul throw goes onto the track. How would you handle that?
Yell.
I think that's probably a scheduling issue. As we know, various facilities don't, if the hammer or the discus is in the infield, they won't have any run-in events going on at the time. So I think that is more handled by scheduling. That's that if they got two things going on at the same time, you got like, so if it's youth, you know, depending on where the lines are, that throw may not get out, is not going to get out there. If you're talking about 10-year-olds, you're talking about open, you know, then it's something different. How much adjustment would you make adjustments post inspection in the sector?
Hey, the question has to do with the implement itself. If an implement hits something and gets damaged somehow, how much adjustment would you make to the implement? Would you put tape, let's say tape over it, or would you fix it and then send it back to inspection?
Oh, that's a different zoom. That's the implement inspection.
This has to do. It does have to do with throws in general.
Yeah,
there are officials that have. Is there a zoom on implement inspection that has to do with throws?
Yeah. Well, the implement we will speak actually that when we do the implement inspection. This is just how we setting up the throws. This is just
in answer to his question, Sydney, what an official should do is get into the habit of checking the implement whenever it makes contact with a hard object. So if a discus is thrown into the cage or onto concrete, at minimum, an official should rub fingers around the rim to determine if the rim has lost its integrity. And I've had that happen where discus will hit and now the rim has a rough edge to it. And at that point, it has become illegal. And so you need to take that implement out of competition. But officials bear the responsibility of paying attention to these kinds of things and making any kind of follow-up that's appropriate.
Okay. Sandra, iPad, you have a question?
Yes, I did. Years ago, because you know I've been doing this a long time. Years ago, there was a Kleinman files, and it indicated actually the script you say, because I've been to a lot of meets around the country where the officials, whoever's giving the instructions to the athletes, give a plethora of information. You got to go out the back, you got to do this, basically they're coaching. Will that ever come back again to have the dialogue to be given to the athletes? You know, guy said, this is my circle. You can't touch here. You can't touch there. You can't do it. You got to wait for it to land. And he kind of went on and on and on. And I'm looking at him. And I wasn't in charge. I wasn't the chief. And I just sat there and I'm going, it's way too much information. So will the Kleinman files, those of us that have been around long enough, ever be reintroduced about what the dialogue should be?
Sure. That's something that's very useful to do. Very useful to do. And one of the things that people generally don't tell athletes, but should be told them, is what constitutes initiation or initiating of an attempt, because you have to initiate your attempt within the minute. And it's very useful for athletes to know your definition and what you're looking for initiating an attempt. And you can say that at any level, because that is peculiar to the competition that's being run.
I appreciate that, because after the person giving the instructions, who wasn't even the chief of the event, I then, because I was doing the flight coordinating part of it, I said to all the athletes, now remember, you have 1 minute to do this event from the time I call you up that second time. I thought that the person giving the instruction should have done that, but because he didn't say it, I added that in.
That was a good call.
Yeah, I got two more, then we're gonna shut
Thank
this.
you.
All right, I got MacArthur, and then there's a question on a chain link fence. Good, MacArthur.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in terms of speaking of equipment, so in terms of like the net, in terms of like taking that up and taking it down, is that something that's beholden for the officials to take care of, or is that for whoever's in charge of the stadium? And on that note, is there like a difference between doing that for a high school meet or a college meet or a professional meet?
So I can answer the first question. Definitely. It's usually left up to the facilities because they know the venue. And they are, I don't know, a lot of them are paid to keep up the facilities and keep up the venue, the uptake of it. So I would definitely leave it up to the facilities. And if not, find somebody from meet management, a referee that you're just notifying that, you know, the venue's not set up. Especially the sectors. I mean, I've been to a lot of meets where the sectors, even though they've been set up, have been wrong. So that's why it goes back to, you know, you need to get there with ample amount of time to make these corrections to make it a safe and fair event.
There was a question about if the cage was a chain link fence, does that safe to conduct?
The cage is supposed to be designed to absorb the energy of the implement. In a chain link fence, the implement can bounce off and put the athlete at risk. It is common, I think it's probably the cheapest way to set up a cage, but there should be something there to absorb the energy of the implement.
Right.
The chain link fence, it'll bounce off.
All right. I just put in a link in the chat for our YouTube channel, because this, along with, I think we're up to 31 other videos in there. You guys can click on that, subscribe, and everything that we do will be there. Scott, to you.
Yes, and along those lines, there's my contact. So take a screen share of that and send me an email request for prior recordings, and of course, a request for this recording, and I will send it along as soon as it's generated. I usually allow until the following day so that I know that it's up and ready to go. I also have some things that I'm going to be talking about in my next training chair article that's going to be coming out in September that bears upon throws. And so look for that, please, and items that are going to be offered there. So we thank you very much, you two, for taking the amount of time that was required to do this. There is a lot of preparation, a lot of thought, a lot of organization that goes into these, and we are the beneficiaries of your kindness and your generosity. And thanks, Lloyd, very much for everything that you do in order to make this series a success.
Hey, Scott, we have, there's two more to do. Implement inspection, which I'm working on, but the one for starters, I think everyone's going to want to tune into that one. We don't have a date yet, but that's going to be a nice one.
Yes, as Lloyd mentioned also, there's going to be a series on Jav flats that I think you'll enjoy quite a bit. And the national meeting, just to let you know, is only going to be 2 days this year instead of 4. And there are not going to be any training clinics offered during the national meeting. So the clinics that I have lined up to have will occur in the span of time both before and a little bit after the national meeting. We can't have it too much afterwards because we run up against the Christmas season. So just to let you know, we have things in the hopper and we look forward to having you join us. So everybody, thank you very much for attending. We'll bid you adieu.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
for
you.
doing it. It's great.
Thank you.